My mother-in-law sent $50,000 to a scammer and pawned off my wife's car. Now, she's hiding in a farmhouse claiming we abandoned her while she plots to sell our kids' future. So, my mother-in-law lives in Laos, a developing country in Asia. I was born there too, but left when I was 10 months old. My mother-in-law had fallen victim to romance scams in the past, but only losing maybe 2 to 5,000 USD. We knew she had in the past 6 months fallen for another romance scam, but we didn't think it was that serious. And my wife has in the past 4 years completely renovated her mother's house. New backyard, new additions to the house, even left her still relatively new car for her mother. My wife also sends her mom about 700 USD a month for expenses, the same amount she sends to her father, and he says it's more than enough. Mother-in-law is not cash rich, but has access to properties. But we would then hear things like how my mother-in-law is very frugal, lives like a destitute person. Mother-in-law would constantly be asking my wife for advances in her allowance. Then we would hear from others that mother-in-law told people that we never sent her any money at all, not even $1, all in an attempt to convince that person to lend her money. Then we start getting calls from village elders and family members that mother-in-law is trying to pawn properties for loans, some successfully. She has no intentions of paying off these loans though. For the papers we could get, they take the property after 6 months of backed payments. Mother-in-law thinks that she will be living in the US by the time the loans are due, and her great lover will pay off the loans. She's been able to pawn things that aren't even in her name. In the past month, she has pawned jewelry, $10K, 4-acre plot, $12K, real value $50, scooters, $1K, rental advance from a business property she owns 1/6 of, $20K, my wife's car, $3K, real value $15, the roughly $50K she received from the loans she's already given away to the scammers. She has also attempted to sell, but were stopped by officials. Another 4-acre plot, $18K, real value $100, her own house in the capital, right in the central business district, $100K, real value $500, and her 1/6 plot for family business property, $50K, real value $250,000. Now, my wife's family is not used to confrontations. I think it's actually a cultural thing, so despite everyone knowing what needs to be done, no one is leading. So, I guess I am. In 3 weeks, we will be landing in Laos. I will lead an intervention, around 10 people, victim impact statements, etc. I got my sister-in-law and mother-in-law's ex-husband to talk to the officials to make sure the second farm plot, own house, and family business cannot be sold, as the village officials have to sign off on it. Then we will pay off the car loan and then sell it. And we cannot get back the plot of land without mother-in-law helping, as she has the loan papers, and these loan people are shysters. So unless mother-in-law is convinced that she has been scammed, the plot is gone. If mother-in-law comes to her senses, we will use the car money and put it in our money funds to buy back the land. We stopped sending mother-in-law money last month. We pay her utility bills directly and pay sister-in-law to buy her groceries to put in her fridge. And then the issue with the house that she's trying to sell is 2 of her daughters, and quite often 1 or 2 of her grandkids, also live there. Losing the house will not just affect the mother-in-law. But if you've read this far, thank you. And I need help with this intervention. I've never even done one before and I need some guidance. We plan on taking her smartphone and replacing it with one of those Nokia brick phones. I am expecting the intervention to last 5 to 6 hours. Also thinking of not letting her leave the home for even days or weeks until she gets it. If she doesn't wake up and realize what's happening and pawns the house she lives in, we will not help. I will not put up $130K for this bat crap crazy lady and risk my own family's financial future. So this intervention, as serious as it may get, has to work, or we will be cutting mother-in-law completely out from our lives. So, I guess what I'm asking for is, for those who have successfully gotten their family members to realize they were scammed, what did it? How were you successful? And how is the process like for somebody who is in this deep? Edit. So, my wife just approached me with a solution that her sister looked into. I think we're going to check mother-in-law into a mental health addiction clinic, a hospital referred to us by them, and we have spoken with police who will take her to the clinic. I'm curious here what people think about this solution. Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, OP, unfortunately, it usually takes them running out of money. They want to believe what they are being told is true so bad, and convincing them otherwise is almost impossible. On YouTube, there's a channel called Catfished. Maybe you can contact them and have them show that it's a scam? Yeah. As sad as it is though, if this intervention doesn't work, we're out. My wife agrees. She even sold my wife's jewelry and replaced them with fakes, and my wife feels constantly betrayed. Then user 2 commented and said, bit of a cultural point. If your wife was raised in Laotian culture, cutting off her mother would be basically impossible for her. It's one of the gravest sins in their culture, no matter what the parent does. I don't know her nor your relationship, but I would be highly skeptical about her alleged agreement to "we are out." She might have agreed to make you happy, avoid conflict, and move things along. But don't count on that happening so easily in the way an American would imagine. Yeah, you're right. If it came down to it, the kids and grandkids have places to go. She doesn't. My wife would probably get a rental and pay someone to fill it with groceries. And then finally, user 3 commented and said, "It's very likely that even if you seem to get through to her, if you pay off anything, then she'll go right back and sell it again to give more to the scammer." We see this story time again here. The intervention or ultimatum seems to work, but very quickly, they go back to the scammer again. You need to make sure to protect the house so her kids will have a place to live. So, here's what's more messed up. The house actually was the family house of her ex-husband's parents. They divorced, but he agreed not to split the house or have his name on the deed because he said his kids and grandchildren are living there, and he was happy his kids and grandkids could use it. Father-in-law is a cool dude. No one blames him for leaving. Update, 1 month later. I never thought there would be a part 2 because I didn't think there would be a point, but here goes. So the first few days we arrive in Laos, my mother-in-law is nowhere to be seen. On day 3, we get one of her friends to ask her to meet up casually, and she says she can't. She's in another city for a funeral of her friend. We then figure out she's hiding in her country farmhouse an hour away. So now it's harder to get a lot of people in my planned intervention. Still, 6 people pack in a van. Her brothers, her daughters, including my wife and me, and we head out there. We park and one of her daughters approaches the farmhouse. She calls out her mom and her mom answers and tells us to go away. We surround the farmhouse and everything is locked. We keep telling her that we just want to talk, but we will break down the doors if she doesn't unlock the doors, and mother-in-law refuses. There are 2 doors inside. One is boarded up and impossible to get through. The other, we use a crowbar to wedge over the door. And we do get through the lock, but this woman has also used coat hangers wrapped around the doorknob attached to something else to keep us out. So now we spend 10 minutes getting through that, and we go through the house. And then she's locked in the bedroom. So now we start to crowbar this door, and as we do so, she's screaming that we're coming to kill her. Great. We get in, and she's an absolute mess. Hair all over the place, just generally unkempt. Her older brother tries to talk to her. Really calm, like a good guy, being nice, calm, and then he gets a punch from her. She's also a heavy-set woman, so it probably hurt a little, even if she's elderly. So I sit down, and I totally think I got this, right? I've seen some screenshots of her phone that people have managed to take and was able to piece the possible story together. So I lay it out to her. Common enough romance scam. Scammer sends her something, gets stuck at customs, she sends money, but it's still stuck. Then story escalates to scammer coming to visit her, then is arrested and needs bail. Now it's her fault, and she needs to send money to bail him out. It's okay though, when he's out, he will pay whatever cost she incurred, and they'll fly away to another country and live happily ever after. And I spend 3 hours over logic and reason. Like, why can't this guy call his embassy if he's stuck? She doesn't say a word, but does look at me when I talk. And then finally, at hour 5, as everyone is tired and giving up, I give her a hug, and she absolutely breaks. She starts crying, telling us she believes us. Everyone hugs each other, which does not happen in this country. People are crying, and I'm like, yeah, I got this. Then she wants to spend another night at the farm, though. I get that. She's lost someone, this lover that no longer exists who never loved her. She needs to grieve, and I ask for her phone, but she doesn't want to give it that night. She will give it tomorrow, but promises not to contact the scammers. Everyone leaves in good spirits, people seem happy, and dinner is had. Next day, mother-in-law returns, and I see her for maybe 5 minutes. Everyone seems good. I decide to go the route of starting on the family recovery part. Then, a few days later, go for the financial part. And we're staying in a hotel, not with my mother-in-law. So next day, small family dinner is had, people are happy to have their mother back. 2 days later, bigger family dinner. Mother-in-law seems happy. She agrees to talk about the financial part the next day. This whole time, though, I did not get that phone back from her. I was so focused on getting the family part back. My mistake. And at the table, I sit myself, mother-in-law, and her daughters. And I start with a simple, "So, you do still believe us and not this scammer, Kevin, right?" And then she looks at me and replies with, "I don't know what you're talking about. There was never a Kevin." So yup, she's still talking to the scammer. Now everyone is pissed. One of her daughters throws photocopied text conversations between her and the scammer while yelling at her mom. "Oh yes, that Kevin, I remember." And I can't believe this crap is happening. I try to calm everyone down, but everyone is upset. And what's crazy is that she seems to realize it's a scam, but at the same time still believes the scammer. And then we ask for property titles, so she can't pawn or sell things and we can recover some things, but she only gives us partial actual documents or photocopies. Everyone is more pissed. She keeps denying having any loan papers, that the loan sharks kept them all. We don't believe it. Then she takes out her phone and starts to go through it to find one of her loan contacts. My wife decides this is it and lunges at her mother for the phone. My wife, she may be slim, but she's active at the gym, and I, of course, naturally have a go at it too. So now 3 people wrestling over the phone, which we did manage to take, and my wife quickly goes over the conversations from the scammer and the loan sharks. And my wife reads aloud the messages and confirms that it was the same scam story that we thought. And at this point, everyone seems calm. Mother-in-law seemed resigned to the fact that we have now her phone and are going through it. The rest of the family is bewildered at how obviously fake the lies and images that the scammer sent to her were, but no one is yelling at her. The scammer is apparently an American, head of medicine at some Boston hospital. And of course, why wouldn't a 40-something head of medicine want my elderly, nearly obese mother-in-law? And at one point, my wife sees that my mother-in-law asks the scammer why he didn't go to the embassy for help, and the scammer said that there were no embassies from his country where he was being held. We questioned the mother-in-law, but she's not really talking much, but finally, she says he's in Germany. Everyone is still calm though. Then I show my mother-in-law that there is a US embassy in Germany, a half-dozen consulates, dozens of offices, and then she replies that she's going to have to let Kevin know about these options that he didn't know about. She still believes this dude. Then I show her that the plane tickets they sent to show that he had a jet-set life that didn't exist. The images were so ridiculously fake that anyone could Google and see why. A non-stop ticket from Kazakhstan to Tennessee on UA 134? But everyone is still trying to convince her, and they're all still calm. Then my wife scrolls to the loan sharks. Financially, we are mostly where we think we are, except she has managed to pawn off the country farmhouse, and we didn't think she could do that because her ex-husband is on the title, and he did not agree to that. Then at this point, people are furious, and I am tired of holding them back. So they verbally lay it on her. We put down on paper what the debt is, and I don't think she flinched. But we did though when it totaled up to $70K for properties and items worth $350K. And we tried for 2 hours to talk sense into her, but she's still fully committed to believing the scammers. There was just one property left that is not pawned, the one we're currently in. The only one that has her name, but is actually her ex-husband's childhood house. And everyone leaves frustrated. My wife and I tell her that she would never see us again. She asks for her phone back, and our reply wasn't very nice. My wife worries her mother is going to unalive herself. She doesn't. Next day, we meet up with the father-in-law, whom I always thought was a stand-up guy. Everyone thought he would be upset, but he was just disappointed. He goes on to explain that he removed his name from the house title in the capital because he didn't want his children or grandchildren to think he would try to kick them out in any way, as his ex-wife had repeated in saying it was something he would do, and he was in tears, and just said he wanted good things for his family. And we agreed to meet up again the next day to start a plan to get the police to arrest mother-in-law for selling the farm property that father-in-law did have his name on the title. Then my wife goes through the phone and we get an even clearer picture. Turns out those loan shysters weren't nearly actually as bad as we thought. Even the one that accepted a property as collateral knowing the father-in-law wasn't involved. There were 2 main loaners. Each loan to them started typical enough for the 2 properties. But then mother-in-law started asking to see if they would take a loan for the house and capital. Both said no, stated that they didn't want any of the properties, they just wanted the interest from the loans. They started questioning if she was being scammed, telling her to talk to her family, and she kept telling them that she was fine. But they kept insisting she gets her family involved, and she said her family was why she didn't have anything and needed the loans. After that, we called the loan people, and they seemed amicable and actually concerned for mother-in-law. One only wanted the principal back, the other seemed willing to accept the principal and a month's interest instead of everything that's occurred. My wife then asks me if I remember the jewelry gifts we got for our wedding. I replied that I didn't, until she mentioned it now, and then she says, "Good, then you won't miss them." And next day, my wife plans to pay the loan to get her car back. There's already a buyer. The sale of the car and the jewelry is enough to cover not everything, but at least the 2 farm properties, and I guess I shouldn't be annoyed at losing the jewelry. Definitely annoyed at mother-in-law though. Then, sure enough, midday we get a text message from the scammer on my mother-in-law's phone, which we have, asking why he's getting text messages from another number claiming to be my mother-in-law, and that this is the new number to call. We throw a few curveballs at the scammer, but yep, mother-in-law had a backup phone, which actually explains why she wasn't wrestling us back for the phone, and is re-talking to the scammers. Yay. Then, 2 hours after this, my sister-in-law puts her phone up to show me and my wife a live scene from the security camera at the house. And here's the thing, a lot of people in this country still believe in animalism and spirits, etc. And the conversation goes like this. My sister-in-law says to us, "So she's opening up all the windows in the house." Then my wife says, "Oh, that nasty woman." And the sister-in-law says again, "Yep, she's got them all opened. She's got some incense now, she's lighting them outside the house and waving them around." Then my wife says, "Oh, F her. I'm so out of her life. What kind of mother does that?" And then I'm scratching my head at this point and I say, "What's going on?" And then my sister-in-law replies with, "Well, she just wished all the evil in the world to come to you and your wife." Oh, wonderful. And that's it. Thank you for reading my rant. And we're here for another week, so let's see what crazy crap happens now. I'm hoping my mother-in-law does get arrested. I think it is likely, but maybe not before we leave. And if you guys actually read this all the way through, thank you. And if the next part is interesting, I will put it up. Now here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, "So, the picture you paint is one of a person who is not mentally well. She needs medical intervention." Yeah, that is the picture we get as well. I have suggested it to the family before, but they declined it. But it seems like a good idea to suggest it again. Edit. Never mind, I recall now why they declined. Mental health treatment is non-existent here. The one place that would take her is for drug rehab, and it's pretty grim. And then user 2 commented and said, "OP, I would not bail her out of her loans with your money. She'll just do it again with the same scammer or a different scammer, and I would move on with your life and stay out of hers." So, the deed for the farm that has my father-in-law as well on it will be transferred entirely to my father-in-law. Apparently, this can be done without mother-in-law's consent as long as officials agree, and it looks like they will agree. Then the other farm that is entirely in mother-in-law's name will hopefully be transferred to my wife eventually, as she is the one who actually paid for it, but we need mother-in-law to agree. Seems she won't agree anytime soon. However, we actually get to keep the title from the loaner after the debt is paid, so she won't be able to pawn anything without the title. As for the house in the capital, father-in-law's childhood home, father-in-law, along with the entire family, will be meeting with officials to have the title changed to be under only father-in-law's name. The plan is going to get mother-in-law arrested and put away until she regains her senses. I can't believe it's come to that, but I don't see any other way to get her to come to her senses. And apparently, she's throwing garbage all over the house, unplugging laundry if someone is using the machine, just making the lives of her daughters still there miserable, the whole time screaming at whoever is there that soon she will have everything and we'll see that she's right. And I had previously told the daughters to go easy on the mom, but today I told them to go at it if they want. They are not defenseless women, they've just been holding back, and she's going to be put away, it seems, one way or another. Update, 1.5 months later. So this update isn't exciting as the second update when we were breaking down doors with crowbars and my mother-in-law was putting a hex on us, but that's probably a good thing. I pushed for getting her arrested, but apparently in Laos, it's not that simple. You have to go to the village elder, they have to get the village police involved, and then an actual arrest can be made. I am not sure if it really was this complicated or if the family just did not have the appetite for it. Of all of the things that she pawned, we were interested in resolving 4 items that were pawned or suspected to be. My wife's car, 2 farm plots, and the house in the capital. We paid $3,000 to get the car back, which included the loan and interest. We then sold the car. My wife also sold the wedding jewelry that we received many years ago. This, together with the proceeds of the car, was enough for us to pay back the loan and interest for the 2 farm plots. The papers were all signed in front of the village officials, and we had no idea where the deed to the house in the capital was. Well, it turns out the loan people had the deed all along. My mother-in-law was so desperate for money that she offered to take $5,000 for a house worth 500,000 USD. The loaner declined but held on to the deed, which was given back to us. Now, the laws in Laos don't make any sense to me, and I'm not sure how we're able to do the things we did after. But the first farm plot is 6 acres and co-owned by mother-in-law and ex-husband. Mother-in-law managed to pawn the property without her ex-husband knowing. So now we are going by the official judgment from their divorce. 1.5 acres will be given to mother-in-law, but the title will be given to one of her daughters to hold. The second farm plot is 5 acres. It was 100% in my mother-in-law's name, but was paid for by my wife years ago. The title will now be transferred to my wife. As for the house in the capital, it is 100% in my mother-in-law's name, even though it was my father-in-law's childhood home. This was because she had repeatedly accused him of, in the future, selling the house and leaving the grandkids with no place to go. Funny how it was actually the opposite. We're working on putting father-in-law back on the title, while one of my wife's sisters holds onto it. And my wife used to give her mother a $500 to $600 monthly stipend, but stopped a few months ago. She has told her sisters that she will still help pay for utilities and putting groceries in her mother's fridge. Wife's nieces and nephews also use the house, and we have to pay utilities directly now, as the lights were just turned off recently because mother-in-law didn't pay utilities for 4 months. However, we have cut off all contact with mother-in-law. She won't see our son again either, and she has numerous photos of him in her house. We knew she had promised the scammers to get him money in April, so we tried to get ahead of that. She traveled to Thailand to ask some relatives for money, but we told them ahead of time not to give her anything. In the end, she begged them for bags of rice to take home, which they gave. She also recently went to visit her son to ask him for money, but he wasn't home. So she asked for $5 from her daughter-in-law's mother, and she's going to several friends asking for financial help, telling them that her kids abandoned her. So now we have to call those people and tell them that mother-in-law has been scammed, but we still put food in the fridge. And mother-in-law, she still believes the scammers. She wants to desperately believe she did not give the scammers our final tally of $70,000. She really wants to believe her lover is real. She has nothing left to pawn now since we have all of the documents. And I can only hope that within 6 months, the scammers will stop talking to her once they realize she has nothing left, and maybe she will come to her senses. It's been exhausting, but I am glad we are able to get all 3 property titles back, so at least mother-in-law and niece and nephews don't end up on the street. I was born in Laos too, but left when I wasn't even 1 year old, but I get the culture. We planned a 5-week trip, but spent almost 4 weeks cleaning up this scam mess. The whole point of the trip prior to realizing my mother-in-law was being scammed was to do a baby blessing ceremony to be attended by hundreds of people. It's a very wholesome, positive event. Something my wife has been looking forward to for a year, but we didn't do it since there was so much bad energy. It wasn't until we flew to Bangkok for a few days that we felt that we were finally on vacation. My wife used to fly back to Laos once a year, sometimes twice, but she's made it very clear she won't be going back for a while. So, I would like to add something that I found a little bit interesting, which is old people, they're not good with technology, it's not unheard of for an old person to get scammed or lose some sort of money. But as technology has been around longer, and the younger the people are, and the more ingrained it is to their lives and culture, we're typically more capable of spotting these scams the younger you are, right? Like there was a certain time where, oh my god, I'm the 1 millionth visitor. But now, you don't even see that anymore because nobody falls for that, but people used to. And while scammers are still around, I think we're getting better over time identifying them. Right now, it's crypto scams, and people want to pay $4,000 for something called Slop Doodoo Coin, endorsed by Logan Paul. I don't know, but we're getting better at identifying scams, in some ways, I feel like. But as for the story, as for the mother-in-law, I personally don't think she's going to come to her senses. She is mentally ill, and she will just get more desperate. That's what I think. But anyway, guys, we're at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, commenting, have a really good day, and bye-bye!